This is a message to all my supporters of this podcast. I'm introducing a new supporters program. You can contribute a small amount as a one-off payment to show your love for this podcast. Thank you in advance for all your contributions.
I'm John Prideaux, host of the Checks and Balance podcast from The Economist. Each week, we unlock the stories and the trends shaping American politics, joined by The Economist journalists from around the world, plus expert guests. We dig into the ideas, the data, and the country's complex history to answer the big questions about where it's headed. That's Checks and Balance. Join me today and start listening on Acast, your podcast app, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Mark Hayward. I am I'm presenting the Absolute Business Mindset podcast. One final thing I'd just like to add, I'm a corporate employee with an entrepreneurial mindset. So today I'm going to talk about questions. I think this is something that is a little bit underrated by a lot of people that are involved in business. A lot of people want to tell you what they want to tell you about, and I must admit I am a little bit prone to that. If I go into a meeting, especially when somebody is wanting to find information about something, I will talk and I will tell them what the business idea was, or etc. Actually, you'll find the people with the most experience often ask questions and listen. Before they start making judgments or making a decision, they will stop and think. So I would say this is something that's completely underrated, especially when you're young, when you want to prove yourself, you want to prove what you know, and you want to make that clear to people that you've got a handle on the project or the task or the person or whatever it is. You need to, what the important points are. And I think you'll find that if you speak to partners, CEOs, the successful ones are the ones that start from the premise they don't know everything. And that's incredibly important for you to believe that you don't know everything. When you start doing that, you start becoming more humble. And it means that you are ready to be able to be influenced on people that might have more experience than you or more knowledge than you, and they can add value to your business or your career. And there is never a bad opportunity to stop, listen, ask a few questions. So it's a valuable skill. I would actually say it's a technique, it's a skill that people should develop. And at the start of it, at the first point of it, is stop talking. So I'll leave that pause for everyone just to think about that. Stop talking, let there be silence in the room, and see who wants to fill that void. Because those people that want to fill the void are a good starting point for when you're trying to absorb information about a project or task, whatever it is, report, whatever it is. And it's incredibly important just to let that silence hang just for a few seconds. So I think you need to just start thinking that you're not foolish if you ask questions. You're not expected to know everything, and therefore you don't need to make a big deal about asking these questions. Well, actually, the skill, when you develop it further from I want to ask questions to be able to learn and understand from others, is when you start really hitting the note when you're asking profound questions, important questions, insightful questions. That's when you really get the perfect pitch for the sort of understanding when to have questions and when not to. So start thinking about situations. Now, it's all good at a meeting. You're asking questions, you're taking notes. One of the other things that I think is incredibly important. And you'll find, I think, if you start thinking about things while you're listening to people, you will actually come up with better questions. And important, insightful questions are a great way of being able to expand your knowledge and other people's knowledge. So, and what you'll find is it's a skill. It's like a muscle. You need to use it. And what you'll do is when you're when you're taking notes, thinking about what people are saying and not talking yourself, you actually can be more authoritative, because towards the end of the meeting, you can then start and you can say, well, I've considered everything you've thought or you've spoken about, and I've thought about it. And actually, I think X, Y, and Z, whatever it is. So I think it's an important skill. Also, asking the right person the right question at the right time. So it's not always just about authority or who has the power, because there might be an expert in that room who might be able to give you insight, which might be able to influence your boss, whoever it is. So it's important to sometimes just think a little bit deeper about who the right person that you need to ask the question of. So I think that's important. And it's also a skill that helps problem solving. If you're looking to ask questions and hear their answers, consider their answers, work through what you believe, and then you can then come to a conclusion, you're actually solving the problem while you're going along. So it's incredibly important to be able to think in this way. It's actually engaging. It's people that just like to hear their own voice and just keep on talking and talking and talking, don't actually engage the other people in the room. And it's important that there could be people that might not be the most extroverted or the most powerful or authoritative person, but they might have a really good idea. And therefore, I think it's important that you guys think about engaging with other people. Now, you might be just thinking, I've got to impress my boss, I've got to be able to. You will impress your boss if you actually think through a subject, something that you're talking about, you ask the right questions and then come to the conclusions. That shows leadership, and that is the difference between being just a good worker and actually having leadership skills to be able to do. So I think it's important to ask why. Why is this happening? How did you come to conclusion? The whole who, what, how, when, why is always a good starting point when you're trying to think about a problem and when you're thinking about what sort of questions to ask. So have a think about it. I think it's a really good skill, technique that you should be able to develop and get better at. And just give yourself a second to think before you start talking. And so it's just stop thinking and talking. You need to start considering other people's views and then come to your conclusions. Right, this is Mark Hayward. You can catch me on Twitter, Mark Hayward169. You got my podcast, Absolute Business Mindset. There's a private members group on Facebook called Absolute Business Mindset. Please join that. There's also Patreon, which I am a member of. And also you got my YouTube videos there as well. So plenty of opportunity to be able to find out more details about me and about my thoughts. Right, thank you very much.